Wasabi guys, welcome back to another top 10 Commander video. This time I would like to go over my picks for the 10 best card draw cards in the Commander format. Now to be specific, I'm going for cards that are pretty flexible, that are really used to support strategies rather than just good commanders that allow you to draw cards. So flexibility is definitely what I'm looking for here, it's my criteria. But before I get into the video, first I would like to remind you that most of you who are watching right now are not actually subscribed to the channel, so I would really appreciate it if you took a second to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Let's start it off here with number 10, Ponder and Preordain / Brainstorm. It's kind of a toss-up, it depends on what you can really take advantage of. They're all very close in terms of power level. Brainstorm is really hot or cold depending on what you can take advantage of. But the point here is that these are cantrips. This is something that you use, you pay 1 blue mana, and you will get at least 1 card off of this. Even with Brainstorm, you will have to put 2 cards back, but you're at least going 3 deep. It's better than just simply drawing 1 card blind. With Ponder, you get to see the top 3 first, and if you don't like them, shuffle. Preordain is a scry before you draw. It just makes all of these pretty decent, and you're likely going to throw them into a lot of blue decks if you don't have the most consistent card draw. Number 9 is the Great Henge. Now this could be some other cards in green, but to be honest, the Great Henge is just one of the all-around best value cards of the last 2 years. It does a little bit of everything. If you need the mana, it's a mana rock. If you need +1/+1 counters, gain a little bit of life, it can do that for you. But I think it's really strongest because it can do all of that in addition to drawing you cards. You get the card draw off of those creatures whenever you have one enter the battlefield. That is the strongest part about this card in my opinion. It's really what makes green so powerful, is that you have a lot of strength and creature presence and mana production. You also get just reliable card draw like this. You're going to trigger this ability, and it's going to be a consistent source of card draw for you. Number 8 is Mungara the Diplomat. Now, Mungara could be a commander option, but I really like Mungara as a supplemental card. If you're looking to add a little bit of card draw, especially to something like mono white, I think Mungara is definitely a necessity. Not as powerful as something like the Great Henge, but this was a weakness that Mungara helps to address. And the fact that you have several opportunities here, several instances where you can trigger some card draw. If your opponents want to play too many spells, if your opponents want to attack you with too many creatures, you will get some card draw. This happens a lot more often than you might think, so you'll end up drawing cards on your opponent's turn, which is just something that white doesn't have. White doesn't do this well at all. And then number 7, we have Peer into the Abyss. Another newer card. You get a lot of newer cards here for card draw, just because that's what makes the newest powerful decks powerful. You get all of the best card advantage cards, and you've only seen an increased power level in competitive EDH, and this will get you half of your library to your hand at the cost of half of your life, which in Commander is not a big deal. Okay, I'll go to 40 to 20, or I'll go from 36 to 18. That is very worth it. Especially when you consider that's all it really takes to get to your win con, get to your 0 mana rocks, your fast mana, and keep your turn going. At first it may not seem that beneficial, you're paying 7 mana and half your life, but that's pretty much par for the course. You're willing to pay that much life if you're closer to winning. In the number 6 we have a similar idea here with Sylvan Library, a little bit more consistent, but as far as it goes, when we're playing more competitively in green, you have one of the best enchantments ever made. Once it's time to draw, you draw a couple extra cards, and then for each one you want to keep, you just pay 4 extra life. Again, may not seem like a great idea, you're going to be losing a lot of life, but if you've built your deck correctly, it shouldn't take too many times doing that to get to what you're looking for, your win cons, your tutors. And that's the whole purpose behind Sylvan Library, is that the ends justify the means. You're paying a lot of life to keep those extra cards. And then number 5 we have Skull Clamp. Flexible to the point where you can throw it into whatever deck you want to because it's colorless. If you have any kind of creature token presence with 1/1s, if you're playing an aristocrat strategy where you can consistently sacrifice creatures, this is a must-have because you're paying 1 mana to draw 2 cards each time you do this. And I've talked about this comparison before, everybody's using the newer card Village Rites. That's essentially the same thing as Skull Clamp. You Skull Clamp a 1/1 token, you draw 2 cards. It's almost exactly the same as for 1 mana sacking a creature to draw 2. And the fact that it's an artifact with that ability means it's going to stay out there as long as it's not removed, and you get to keep reusing it. It just wins games. If you have a reliable sack outlet and a way to keep producing more of those cheap creatures that you can use as fodder, you're just going to keep a full hand and probably win. And then number 4 here we have Mystic Remora. Another great enchantment. Now we're talking about blue, so you know it's going to be a little bit more intense when we talk about card draw. Every time an opponent wants to play a non-creature spell, you get to draw a card unless they pay 4 mana. There is a cumulative upkeep, so each one of your upkeeps you have to pay an extra mana, and that just keeps increasing, so you keep having to pay that tax. However, and we're going to talk about another card here soon, I think you all know which one I'm referring to, but Mystic Remora is well worth it, especially in a competitive multiplayer game where you have 3 opponents who are likely going to cast non-creature spells even if it results in you drawing cards. The fact that this is so cheap, and the fact that it's just been so long without a reprint, means that before the past 2 or 3 years it really flew under the radar. And then once more people started playing competitively, they started to recognize, wow, for 1 blue mana this just sits out there, and it collects you a ton of card draw. It is one of the best uses of 1 mana ever, in my opinion. And then number 3, we have Consecrated Sphinx. Again, another great blue card, pretty ridiculous. I think it's broken. I don't think it's the best design. However, whenever you play it, I think everybody knows it's the card to get rid of. You become public enemy number 1. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you may draw 2. So it's not even like you're forced to draw cards. That's always the thing that people confuse easily, is that this is the kind of card that you can force your opponent to deck out with. It's a may. So just all around a very brutal card that if you're not able to deal with it, you probably just lose. We just have so many good cards now that trigger whenever an opponent draws a card. We can keep our opponents from drawing too many cards. We can get treasure tokens off of something like a Smothering Tithe, but to me this is the best way to take advantage of your opponent's drawing cards. And then number 2, we have Wheel of Fortune / Windfall. To me, this was way too close to call it for either one. I think these are pretty much neck and neck. I wasn't even going to mention Time Twister because nobody plays that card. It's in a lot of deck lists, but the only way people play it is if they proxy it. Wheel of Fortune is a guaranteed you draw 7 if you discard your hand. Windfall is potentially more or less depending on who has the most cards in hand, but they do pretty much the exact same thing. They serve the exact same purpose for decks that are capable of taking advantage of either. If you have a Nekusar deck, you're capable of dealing more damage, depending on how many cards your opponents draw. If you were a fan of Hull Breacher for that brief period of time it was legal, you were capable of using this to hurt your opponents and prevent them from drawing more cards. And of course I already mentioned the powerful synergy with Consecrated Sphinx, allowing yourself to draw an insane number of cards, probably your whole library, and then just win the game. While these don't reset the game, they kind of have that impact where if you're behind it all, if you have an empty hand, you can keep your turn going if you play one of these. And of course, there are other cards that do something similar, but for 3 mana, these are pretty much the only 2 that you're going to see more often than not that offer you this consistency and outcome. So number 1 here, the card I believe is the best card draw card in the Commander format, Rhystic Study. And what's funny about this card is that it's not even a pure card draw card. It's really a tax card. It's actually, in my opinion, best viewed as a card that can keep your opponents from really going off in a single turn. Because the idea isn't so much they're going to give you card draw, it's at the very least they're going to slow down. And they just won't play as many spells out of fear of giving you cards. Or they will only play 1 spell, guaranteeing them the ability to pay that tax. Either way, you win, because you get great card draw if they're not afraid of you. If they are afraid of you, then they're not going to go as quickly as they should. Even if you end up getting maybe only 1 card per turn cycle off of this, I still think it's worth it, because it means it's multi-purposed. You're not just drawing those cards, you're hurting your opponents, you're slowing them down. And to me, that's what really makes this a great card draw card, is that even if it's not getting you the kind of card draw that you would get off a Consecrated Sphinx, it's still useful. You know, it's never really dead, it's always going to have an impact. Often what you'll find is that the entire game suddenly revolves around Rhystic Study, and how do you play around it. So anyway, let me know what you think about these 10 best card draw cards in the Commander format. As always, I'm Commander Void. I will see you all next time.